Fleck steps out of his house like it's just another day. He's headed to the apartment complex where his girlfriend lives. At first, he seems like a regular guy, but it doesn't take long before we learn more that turns out Fluke used to be a boxer, a serious one. But after his mother passed away, everything went downhill. He quit his job, lost direction, and left the ring behind. These days, he's stuck in a rough neighborhood filled with gangs, drugs, and people just trying to survive. On his way, he stops at a tiny street stall to grab a soda. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then, some random guy starts talking trash. At first, Fleck holds it together. He ignores the insults, tries to walk away. But then the guy crosses the line. He talks about Fleck's his mother, that's it. Fleck snaps and grabs him by the throat. Right then, his girlfriend shows up. She jumps in and tries to break things up, pulling Fleck back before it escalates. For a second, it looks like things might calm down. But the guy pushes his luck. He throws one last insult, calling Fleck's mom a prostitute. That's all it takes. Fleck pulls out a gun and shoots him on the spot. The next thing we know, Fleck's behind bars, sentenced to 10 years in prison. As soon as Fluke arrives at the prison gates, he's marched straight to the warden's office. He's not alone. Another newbie is with him, a transgender woman named Fluke, straight from Bangkok. The warden doesn't waste time. He asks them why they're here. Fluke owns up immediately. He killed a man who disrespected his dead mother. No excuses. Fluke, on the other hand, says he was framed, accused of drug dealing, even though he swears he's never touched the stuff. The warden nods, barely blinking. He tells them to behave, or things will get worse. Both are assigned to cell block A, but before they're allowed in, they have to go through the usual procedure. Their heads are shaved clean. That night, the two are dumped into their new cell. But this isn't just any cell, it's ruled by a guy named Beer. And this guy runs things with an iron fist. He's brutal, unpredictable, and everyone knows better than to cross him. Not long after lights out, Beer gives an order. He wants to meet the new arrivals. He immediately sends his enforcer, a guy named Boya, to fetch them. Boya storms over, but by the time he gets there, Fluke and Fluke are already asleep. He shouts, no response. So he grabs Fluke and yanks him out of bed. Fluke doesn't even flinch. Whether he's too tired or just doesn't care, he stays dead asleep. And just like that, Fluke is dragged off in the middle of the night, straight to Beer. Back in cell block A, Beer wastes no time showing who's boss. He lays out the rules and they're brutal. Rule 1, any newcomer has to do whatever he says. No questions, no complaints, disobey, and they'll be beaten into the floor by everyone else in the block. Then without warning, Beer turns to Fluke. His first demand was to pleasure him, right there in front of the others. It's disgusting, and Fluke clearly doesn't want to, but he's been through hell before. And in that moment, with all eyes on him, he gives in. Not because he wants to, but because survival sometimes means doing the unthinkable. While that's happening, Beer turns his attention to Fluke. He didn't wake up earlier when called, and that doesn't sit well with the king of the cell. He tells Boya to teach him a lesson. Within seconds, the entire block piles onto Fluke, beating him until his face is barely recognizable. The next day at the cafeteria, inmates from every block gather here to eat, a rare moment where enemies, rivals, and survivors all share the same space. Beer and his gang take their usual spot, eating like they own the place. Then Block B rolls in, led by a guy named Pangus, with his right-hand man Golf close behind. A moment later, Fluke stumbles in. His face is a mess, bruised, swollen, barely holding together. He then grabs a tray and looks around for a place to sit. Just as he finds a spot, Boya walks up and without blinking, kicks the tray out of his hands. Food spills everywhere. Fluke stands there, fists clenched, rage boiling inside. He could strike, but instead he holds it in. For now. While Golf watches from a distance, he sees Fluke being treated like an animal. He looks like he wants to step in, but Pangus quietly grabs his arm and shakes his head. Not our problem, he says. An hour later, inside the grimy communal showers, Fluke is scrubbing himself when Beer and his gang suddenly corner him. Beer smirks and tells him the showers aren't free, he has to pay up. Fluke, drenched and exhausted, says he doesn't have a single coin. Beer leans in, still smiling. Then kneel, he says. After a beat, Fluke drops to his knees. Without warning, Beer yanks off his sandal and slams it into Fluke's chest, sending him backward. Beer glares at Fluke, his voice low and menacing. Your turn. Fluke freezes, his body shaking, eyes locked on Beer. His fists tighten, but he doesn't budge. Beer steps closer, his patience thinning. Do it. Fluke looks down, his face pale. He can't do it. Without warning, Beer snaps. His hand cracked across Fluke's face, sending him stumbling back. The sting sharpens Fluke's senses. This time he steps forward, his foot connecting with Fluke's chest in a swift, hard kick. Beer throws his head back, laughing. Oh yeah, you're up. Boya smirks, stretching out, taking his time. He taunts Fluke. What's wrong? Gonna cry for mommy? The word stings. Fluke's eyes snap open, a fire igniting behind them. As Boya lifts his foot, Fluke moves fast, his body crashing forward to block the kick. The room freezes, time hanging in the balance. Then it erupts. The gang lunges at him, fists and feet flying. Fluke's body crumples under the barrage, swallowed by the storm of violence. The beating feels endless. Finally, a heavy silence falls. Fluke lies still on the floor, bruised and broken. His eyes flutter shut. Somewhere deep in the dark, memories start to surface. A flash, a teenage Fluke, young and hopeful, stepping into a boxing ring. Another flash, his opponent, which older and tougher, charging forward. Then, in an instant, the punch. Fluke crashes to the mat, out cold. Younger Fluke stumbled home, blood dripping from his split lip, his face bruised and battered. His mother rushed to his side, her hands shaking as she wiped away the blood. Please, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. Stop this. It's only hurting you. Fluke met her gaze, his eyes hard with determination. If I don't fight, we don't eat. He lowered his gaze, but his voice remained steady. One day I'll make you proud. Cut to the present. Fluke lay unconscious on the cold shower floor. A splash of water hit his face, snapping him awake. The warden stood over him, his expression unmoved. Get to the yard, he said flatly. Everyone's already there. As the warden walked away, Fluke stepped forward, holding out an orange. I'm sorry, he muttered, guilt heavy in his voice. Beer made me do it. Fluke peeled the orange slowly, nodding as he took a deep breath. It's okay, he said quietly. I get it. Fluke jogs off toward the yard, but the second he arrives, Beer is already waiting and furious. Without warning, Beer grabs him and unleashes a brutal beating. Fluke hits the ground, defenseless. Not long, Fluke appears. He doesn't flinch, doesn't hesitate. He steps forward and locks eyes with Beer. Fight me, just you and me. Just as the confrontation is about to escalate, Golf, the respected second in command of Block B, steps forward, quickly urging Beer to reconsider. He points to Fluke, still heavily injured and barely standing, emphasizing he's in no condition to fight. Without hesitation, Golf challenges Beer directly. If Golf wins, Fluke and Fluke will move to Block B immediately. Suddenly, Pangus, the authoritative leader of Block B, steps up, calmly motioning Golf aside. With quiet confidence, he asserts that disputes between blocks should be settled between leaders alone. Pangus negotiates a firm yet fair compromise with Beer. He'll take Fluke into Block B, but Fluke must remain behind. Beer, reluctantly recognizing he lacks the nerve to confront Pangus head-on, agrees. Later that night, Fluke settles nervously into his new surroundings in Block B. Soon after, Pangus and Golf visit his cell, noticing he's still awake. When they ask why he's not resting, Fluke hesitates, then bluntly asks why they risked helping him. Pangus calmly replies he simply couldn't watch someone endure endless abuse. He reassures Fluke that Fluke remains relatively safe for now, provided he continues to follow Beer's demands. Moved by their compassion, Fluke expresses sincere gratitude, pledging loyalty to both Pangus and Golf. Pangus nods gently, advising Fluke to rest and promising they'll treat his wounds first thing in the morning. In cell block A, Beer, in a fit of rage, punishes Fluke once again. This time it's because Fluke refused to serve him. Beer forces Fluke to sleep on the cold, hard floor. No mat, no blanket, demanding that he live like an animal. The cruelty is relentless, and Fluke endures it silently. Meanwhile, in Block B, Fluke grows closer to Pangus and Golf. The two leaders who are as kind-hearted as they are loyal. Their calm, principled nature stands in stark contrast to Beer's reign of fear and manipulation. In a place ruled by brutality, Pangus and golf offer Fluke a glimpse of something different, something worth fighting for. A few days later, Fluke's girlfriend visits him. The moment he sees her, his face lights up. He's overwhelmed with joy, but the happiness is short-lived. With tears in her eyes, she tells him that her parents have arranged for her to marry another man. She can no longer wait for him. Fluke's heart shatters. He begs her to call off the marriage, but she turns away, unable to offer him any hope. In silence, she walks away, leaving Fluke broken. As he exits the visiting room, Fluke sees Golf in the midst of a fight with Beer and his men. Without hesitation, Fluke rushes to help. Just as the chaos erupts, the sound of an emergency whistle pierces the air, forcing all inmates to hit the ground. Suddenly, Pangus drops beside Beer, his presence commanding the room. Calmly, he asks Beer what he truly wants. Why all the constant conflict? Beer's response is unexpected. He wants war. A full-on battle between their groups, a fight to the death. Without flinching, Pangus accepts the challenge. The date is set on Saturday. The battle will decide everything. That night, Fluke was fast asleep when Boya entered his cell and woke him up. Without warning, Boya forced Fluke to serve him in front of the other inmates. Fluke, who refused to be reduced to an object, pushed back. But Boya wasn't having it. He crossed the line, violating Fluke's boundaries in a cruel display of power. Sadly, this kind of abuse was all too common in a place like this. Boya gave the other inmates the green light to do the same, and what followed was a nightmare. Fluke was assaulted by multiple men, stripped of his dignity, his humanity, left broken on the floor. Later, Fluke lay motionless, drained of everything. But the nightmare wasn't over. Beer, Boya, and another member of their gang walked in, pulling out a box cutter. They scraped the blade, grinding it into fine powder. The intent was unclear, but the threat hung heavy in the air. The next day, during lunch in the prison cafeteria, inmates gathered as usual. Pangus sat with his group, calm and collected, eating his meal. As always, he and Golf shared what little they had, offering food to anyone in need. They were a rare sight in a place like this, warmth and generosity in the midst of cruelty. Then Fluke appeared, walking up to Fluke without a word, snatching his food. In a frenzy, he devoured it. Fluke, taken aback, asked what was wrong. But before he could react, Fluke suddenly grabbed his throat, choking and vomiting blood all over the floor. As Fluke choked and vomited blood, Pangus immediately understood what had happened. He warned Fluke not to interfere. Fluke was already lost. No one could save him now. It was then revealed that Beer had forced Fluke to swallow powdered box cutter blades, shredding his throat and insides from the inside out. Enraged, Fluke charged toward Beer's table, ready to tear him apart. But Golf stepped in just in time, holding him back with a firm grip. Pangus didn't hesitate. He called out Beer for being a coward, a bully who preyed on the weak. He couldn't wait until Saturday anymore. He demanded the fight move to Friday. With a smirk, Beer eagerly accepted, ready to crush Pangus and his crew once and for all. Friday morning, Pangus and his crew were getting ready for the fight, moving through their routine as they prepared. The air was thick with tension. But Fluke, his mind elsewhere, remained silent and lost in his grief. Pangus noticed the tension in Fluke's stance and turned to face him. Still grieving, Fluke? His voice was unusually soft, a rare break from his usual edge. Fluke's words came out tight, the weight of loss heavy in his chest. Fluke wasn't just an inmate to me. He was like a brother. Pangus placed a firm hand on his shoulder, locking eyes with him. His gaze was intense, unflinching. This fight, this afternoon, it's your chance. You'll face Beer. Let all that pain out. Use it. Make him pay. That afternoon, Pangus and his crew stood in the prison yard, ready for the showdown. The air crackled with tension, as they were determined to end Beer's reign of cruelty once and for all. Then Beer and his men entered the yard. No words were exchanged. Both sides immediately took their positions, and the fight erupted. From the start, Pangus and his team dominated, their strength and coordination overwhelming. But Beer, ever the schemer, quickly resorted to dirty tactics. With a sudden cheap move, he drove a knife into Pangus's stomach, stabbing him multiple times. Just as the battle raged on, the sharp sound of emergency whistles cut through the chaos. Prison officers stormed in, forcing everyone to the ground. The warden marched forward, swinging his baton, striking several fighters. He didn't hesitate. "If anyone starts another riot," he warned, "you'll get an extra 10 years. That night, as the inmates of Cell Block B slept, Golf noticed something off. Despite the sweltering heat, Pangus was curled up under a blanket. Concerned, Fluke, lying next to him, reached out and felt his body. To his shock, he was burning with fever. Fluke quickly opened Pangus's shirt and froze. Deep stab wounds marred his torso, blood slowly seeping through. In a panic, Golf rushed to wake the others, ordering them to search every pocket in the cell for any medicine. Fluke did his best to tend to the wounds, but they were far too severe. Desperate, he screamed for help, calling for the guards, but his cries fell on deaf ears. As time passed, barely clinging to life, Pangus whispered, telling Fluke to stop shouting, as it was no use. He ordered the inmates to go back to sleep. Fluke leaned in close, his voice trembling. "Stay with me, Pangus. Please, hold on." Pangus managed a faint smile, his voice barely a whisper. "Tonight's probably my last." With what little strength he had left, he locked eyes with Fluke and Golf. Make beer pay for everything. And then, in his final moments, Pangus requested one last thing, that Fluke and Golf stay close to him. They lay beside him as he quietly passed away, his last breath taken in their embrace. The next morning, Fluke and Golf found beer in the shower. Without a second thought, they took down several of his men who tried to block their path. Beer, ever the arrogant one, sneered and asked if Pangus was dead and why they came alone. Fueled by rage and grief, Fluke challenged Beer to a one-on-one duel, to the death. Confident and smug, Beer accepted, but with one condition: the fight would be with knives, inside the prison restroom, that afternoon. Later, Fluke and Golf sat, focused as they sharpened their knives. Golf glanced up, a grin tugging at his lips. "Why not take them all on at once? We could end it here." Fluke shook his head, his eyes steely. "If we fight as a group, the guards will step in before we finish with Beer. A duel, that's our best shot to end this, once and for all." By afternoon, Fluke, Golf, and their men waited in the restroom. The tension was thick. Soon after, Beer and his group walked in. Golf stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension. "This fight is between Fluke and Beer. No one else moves." The others fell back, their eyes locked on the two as the duel kicked off. The clash was intense. Fluke took a slash to his arm, but he didn't back down. Drawing on his old boxing skills, he regained control, expertly overpowering Beer, who was soon left defenseless. Just when it seemed like Beer was done, Boya tried to intervene, but Golf stepped in, blocking him with ease. "No interference," he warned, making it clear that this fight would end on Fluke's terms. Finally, Fluke locked Beer in a chokehold and didn't let go until the tyrant's breath stopped. Beer was dead, but before they could even process the victory, prison guards burst in, seizing everyone involved. 2 hours later, Fluke and Golf were thrown into isolation cells. The authorities blamed them for inciting the chaos and for Beer's death. Soon after, the warden walked in, personally delivering their meals. With cold detachment, the warden informed them it was their final day in this prison. They would be transferred to a far worse facility, one that housed the most dangerous criminals. The reason was executing a fellow inmate, no matter the reason. Fluke's voice cracked with anger, questioning why Beer, the one who clearly responsible for Fluke and Pangus's deaths, had never been punished. The warden's expression didn't waver. He spoke evenly, almost too calmly, revealing that Beer worked in the shadows. No one dared speak out against him, so he left no witnesses or evidence. As Fluke and Golf were escorted out to their new destination, neither of them flinched. They knew what awaited them, but there was no fear. They had accepted their fate. They would rise again, and when they did, they would rule wherever fate took them next. And with that, the story came to an end. Moral lesson from the story: sometimes life punches you in the face like a boxer, but it's not the punch that knocks you out, it's the bad decisions after. So when in doubt, don't shoot people over insults about your mom. Just grab a soda and cool yourself.